Alright, welcome back. So, long story short, I started this video, I got about halfway through, and then my vacuum desoldering tool decided to basically pack it in. And I found out what the problem was. There was a filter just inside the vacuum desoldering tool that was completely gunked up because I put flux on this in order to make it easier to remove. So, if you're using a vacuum desoldering tool, don't go crazy with the flux. The flux will splatter in there and completely gum up your filters. So now this thing is pushing air again. I can continue. So we're about halfway through, and basically what I'm doing here is I'm just removing the solder from each of these pins. Again, I got to tell you, this kind of a tool is a positive boon to the process. I cannot conceive of doing this work without it. You might be somebody who's a wizard in using solder braid to remove solder from things, but the sheer number of pins and the sheer amount of solder to remove makes this a very challenging procedure. Kind of thing that quite literally you really don't want to mess it up, because we're trying to salvage, again, we're trying to salvage this chip to put into a swap back board. And the other thing about it is we really do hope not to do any damage to the tracks around the board. This is why Murray from Kiwi Technics is adamant that you should use a vacuum desoldering tool for this. Now, it may be that you don't care about going back to the Juno 106, and it's totally fine by you to have a Kiwi 106 forever. And when you sell it, if you sell it, eventually, it will be sold. It will be sold as a Kiwi 106 and only as a Kiwi 106. And that's fine. And if that's what you're going to do, then you can just cut these legs out with a pair of cutters and throw the chip away, and then individually desolder each pin. And I have a video in which I do this. It's a bit brutal, and I can of course post it later, but right now I want to show you guys this procedure here. So what I'm doing at this point is I'm just making sure that none of the legs are welded. That one was. None of the legs remain stuck to the wall. That one is. Because I have learned through hard experience that what ends up happening is residual solder will join these guys to the leg. The leg will join to the wall, and then you have a difficult time getting the chip out. And we definitely don't want to have a difficult time getting the chip out. We want it to come out easy. Okay. Is this it? Is this it? Let's find out. I'll take a pair of pliers here. Actually, you know what? Traditionally, the way that I get this out, I say traditionally because I've done a few of them now. I'm just going to move this aside, bring this up like that. I'm going to slide it just far enough back in that y'all can see it. Oh, I guess I can't. Okay, we'll do it this way. Alright. Just rotate this a little bit. There we go. Alright, so here it is just over here. And if I did this right, I should be able to just lever it out. Now what I'm seeing here is that one side it definitely does want to come out. But, right, this guy over here is still in. This pin over here is still in. Let's see if I can get it from underneath. Oh yeah. That was pretty apparent, pretty obvious. Okay, sorry if that was a big blurry mess. I don't have the camera set to autofocus at this point because we didn't want it to automatically go blurry on us. Okay, so that's back in place, and yeah, pushing up from underneath ever so gently, because if one of these legs is trapped, you're just gonna damage it trying to get it out. And there we are. That's it. That's it. It's clear. Okay. So now that it's clear, and this chip here has been removed, I'm going to set this chip aside, and I'm going to go inside my kit, and we'll just explain to you what's going to happen at this point. We have sockets. Rockets from the sockets. So, and then we use up 4 of them. And 4 of them will come with your kit. Whether or not you order the swap back, you will get 4 of these sockets. And I'm just going to position them in since the camera is already focused at that location. They will drop right in. Oh, looks like we got a little bit of shrapnel left over from... That's okay. There was enough room to get it in, so I got it in. Oh, this one actually bent because I was pushing it. So let that be a lesson to you. Do not do as I did. Do not get eager. If you have some solder still existing, by all means get it out. So I'm just going to do that right now. Ooh, taking great care not to burn up the capacitor that sits next to the thing, because that is a bad deal. Okay, there we are. That's all clear. Again, vacuum desoldering tool, useful. At least it is when you keep it clean and the filter properly serviced. Memo to me. Alright, so there we go. So here are the sockets that go in there, and I'm going to solder them in place. And then what rides in those sockets is the contents of this bag, which I'm just going to unbag right now. And I'll bring it in just to show you. Like this. And this is the interface board, which then goes into those sockets and then connects up to the Kiwi 106 CPU board. And when you don't use this one, you can also use the swap back board, which we'll get into in just a little bit. So I'm going to flip this over and solder these in, and we'll be right back. Right on. Now that I have these sockets actually in there, I'm going to apply a little bit more of that magical stuff called flux, because some of these tack joints just created giant blobs that's bridged, and that's never good. We don't want bridging. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of flux. just a little bit. And I'm going to use my fine wire here because now we've got this tacked in. And this big monstrosity is going to be a little bit overkill, but that's cool. Pull that back. That looks pretty good. Want to have a look? Here. You have a look. Oh, there goes the autopilot, the autofocus. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's flip this guy over and move on. Alright, flip it over, flip it over, flip it over. Okay. And there you have it. Here are the sockets in place, okay? Alright, now let me just get this guy the way I like it, and I'm going to lock in the focus. Oh, didn't look like the focus was... Focus might have been out on the last, but sorry about that if that was. And here we go. This is, of course, the daughter card. And what you need to do is line up the pin number 1 with pin number 1. And there is actually a little white dot on it, right over here, right on this side. And that indicates that this is pin number 1. And if I take a look over here on the board, from the top view, this is pin number 1 over here. So, as you can see, they line up. Now, we're just going to move these capacitors down, like that. These cute little ripple caps. And I'm going to line these up. And what I have found in the past, I'm going to call this me being, you know, paranoid for the future, once we push this in, it's going to be in really tight. And I think to myself, well, you know, when the day comes, if the day comes that I want to put in the swap back board, then I would like to be able to take it out. Wouldn't that be good? So I'm looking for a little bit of lubricant, and I'm taking a look around, and I'm seeing that I actually took my lubricant home from the shop here. So it's actually not here. And I do have this tuner control lubricant. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of that. So basically I'm just going to use this spray lubricant on the pins. It's not the stuff that I normally use, so hopefully I'm not making a mistake by doing this. Put a little bit there, and then okay. Roll on the other side. Electrically neutral. Okay, so now this has got a little bit of lubrication going on, and it's going to slide in easier. And at the same time, if it ever comes to taking it out, it will come out easier. So that is the motivation there. So let's push this down. Alright, there we go. There we go. All right, the eagle has landed. So there it is. All right. Yeah, that's why I use a little bit of lubricant on those pins. And if I'd had my my Hosa brand fader lube and contact cleaner stuff, then I would have used that. So again, I guess the moral of the story here is when you are soldering these guys in here, make sure that these sockets are rod straight 90 degrees. If they're in the slightest bit at an angle, you're going to have issues with extra tension getting these guys together. Alright, so here we have it, and officially that is done. Now, what about that chip, you say? Well, here's the swap backboard. And the swap backboard, I basically just dropped the chip right into it. It's got little holes for sliding the chip into. See? There you go. Like that. There are the holes. You see them? And because I was able to get this chip out without it bending its legs at all, it goes in nice. When I say nice, I mean with only a modicum of messing around, which is more than I can say for some of the other swap backboards I've done where I bent the chip a bit. Now, there's a little divot on the front there, which is how you know to line this up. There's a, right, like that, if you can see that. The chip outline has a little divot where the chip is, so this is now correct. And then we need to just basically touch solder these guys on the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out of the way, put this aside, somewhere safe. Nope, that'll fall over. I'll just put it back here. Okay. And once again, there is a, this socket header here is actually poking up underneath the chip bottom. So what you want to do is you want to balance it a little bit. Give it a good balance. And just ensure that when you tack these guys, they tack nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thread a little bit of this in. I'm going to bring this guy in like this and just touch it. And that has tacked that leg in place. And I'm going to repeat the process, and as yes, you can see my Franken gun is proving less than useful at this point because this is such fine work that I really don't want to put a big blob. Okay. That's been tacked, and I'll rotate this around, and I think we are pretty much ready to solder the rest of this, so let's do that next. Alright, so I just put it in my little hand vise here, and because those legs have been tacked, there's no danger of the chip falling out. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to apply a bit of flux to these pins. Again, we do not want our friend, the chip, from having bridged leads. Now again, this is I'm just doing the swap backboard here. Well, that's part of the process. If you're going to have a swap backboard, you better put the chip in, otherwise you're going to lose the chip, and then once you've lost the chip, then you don't have the chip anymore. Without the chip, the swap backboard is pretty much worthless. Well, unless you want to sell it to someone who needs a swap backboard, but that's besides the point. Okay, so this one here actually does need a bit of tacking on this side, so I'm going to just push this over, hold this like this, bring this over like that, and get going here. dangerous thumb burning territory there. Okay, now that I got that going on, a little bit of cleaning, and then we get back to it. This shouldn't be too long. Make light work. We'll make light work of this. We are done. Okay, that's it for that guy. Zoom in on him. Can we see a bit better? Oh, I blew it. Just at the last minute, too. Okay, there you are. So as you can see, these are all nicely done, and we'll just loosen this guy, take it out, and flip it over. And there you have it. That is a swap back board with the processor soldered in. Lovely. Yeah, that one's actually quite nice. And so how does it work? Again, it works like this. If you want this to be the Kiwi 106, you have this interface card socketed in. If you want to use the original Juno 106 without the Kiwi, you put the original CPU back in, you carefully unseat this monster out of its sockets, and you fit this guy in place. And you're back to having the original functionality minus the Kiwi. So there you have it. And I'm going to go put this back in the board then. Let's go. Now I'm just putting this voice board back in, and I got it lined up. And like I say, there's a couple of screws that I didn't take out because they didn't want to come out of the standoffs. So those ones are going to go back in first. And take great care, of course, to line it up with the previous holes. Do not make new holes. Okay. Julio. Three more screws. That's one. That's two. That is three. Put that in like that, and now this goes over here. These two go over here. This one's in like this, and this one's over here. Okay, and then here we have the ribbon connector, which I sort of socketed in there without even really thinking about it. And that is it. Now there's an optional, well, I better put the voice chips back in, hey? Yeah, I better do that. And these are keyed, so they'll go in just fine with an eyeball lining up. There we are, that's one. Actually, that's voice number 6. Now voice number 5. Voice number 4. Voice number 3. Voice number 2. And voice number 1. Bingo! So the voices are now back in, and these are all back in. There's only one more thing to do, and it's an optional deal. In the Kiwi Technics upgrade mode, the save, verify, and load buttons actually act as metronome lights. We'll show you the ARP rate and so on and so forth, and the MIDI tempo and that sort of thing. And they all run simultaneously, and that actually draws a lot of current, more current than this was designed to do. And so what we need to do is there is a resistor back here, resistor 24, which is right in the back. Let me see if I can show it to you a little bit better, in better detail. Let me zoom you down here. Taking you down, taking you down. Okay. Can we see it? Can you dig it, brothers and sisters? This is it right here. And the way to get, it's a resistor, so being a resistor basically means that if you want to defeat it, all you have to do is just put some wire behind it, and that'll be the end of that guy resisting, because he'll be shorted out. And we can do that a number of different ways with actual wire, but I'm thinking maybe, looking for my solder, I thought I brought some with me, and I can see now I did not. So I'll be right with you. Alright, I've zoomed right in. I've zoomed right in on this guy. Now I was thinking that I might actually be able to just use a solder blob to bridge it, and that is a possibility. Of course, it's pretty close together. So let's see if we can or not. Yeah, I wouldn't rely on that blob, doing the job, but having sort of applied that much of it, I can just take what is essentially the leg of a resistor here, or any piece of conductive anything. If you got some wire, this will do too. Oops, moved it just too soon. Oh, yeah, look at that. Great big huge blob of mess. And but it's bridged. So now I'm just going to bend this guy like so, and use an X-Acto knife, taking great care not to cut any traces. There we go. Boy, is that ugly. Well, it's not my finest hour, but it is in fact a working short of that jumper. I might be asking for trouble by doing this, but there we go. Shave off some of the excess globular cluster. Make sure this top here is blobbed in there. How much stuff can you put in? Okay. Wow. Alright. I'm going to leave that as it is. All right, super duper. That's it. We have upgraded this guy to Kiwi 6. I'm sorry, to Kiwi 106. It's now a Kiwi 106 inside. So I'm going to, this actually is one that I actually have in the middle of upgrade process with the control panel. I was actually in the process of taking it out. But I'm going to just leave it as it is. I'm going to take it back over to the test bed and we'll make sure everything is copacetic sound-wise. All right.